Hello there, good evening. Welcome to Look North. Tonight, we're out with the police. 1 in 10 over the limit. North Yorkshire Police get tough on drink drivers who ruin lives.
Putting extra resources and effort into this year's campaign, determined to do even more stops, more shows of force across the county to bring more of these people to justice.
We'll be live in North Yorkshire with the Assistant Chief Constable. Also tonight, Marcia Grant was run over by the child she was fostering. He has been sentenced to 2 years youth detention. Is this the strangest goal Barnsley have ever scored? The stoppage time winner, which has got football fans all fired up. And all dressed up for the season, the Maltby family giving it some welly for Christmas.
Well, the snow showers have been confined to the eastern side of the North York Moors. A few coming through Scarborough. This is Caton Bay this morning. But tonight, those sleet and snow showers could well come further inland. Join me for the very latest.
Hello, thank you for your company this Wednesday evening. Last Christmas, 1 in 10 drivers stopped by officers in North Yorkshire tested positive for drink and/or drugs. Despite the warnings and annual campaigns, motorists, often in rural areas where there's no public transport, are getting behind the wheel and wrecking lives. We're live in North Allerton tonight with Phil Bodmer. And Phil, the warning can't come soon enough, can it?
No, it really can't, AB. Yes, this is police headquarters where they're responsible for some 6,000 miles of roads in this county, England's largest. So you can see it really is quite a challenge. And despite the warnings, despite the annual campaigns, there's still a persistent hardcore of offenders who are quite willing to take the risk. I should warn you, this report does contain some flashing images.
As night begins in North Yorkshire, intelligence emerges about a motorist suspected of driving under the influence of alcohol and possibly drugs.
So we're just after this vehicle that's in front of us. She was stopped 3 days ago and we arrested her for drug driving. She did admit to using cannabis on a daily basis.
The driver is pulled over.
You've not used any cannabis since we last stopped you the other day?
No.
Right, just sit back in your driver's seat.
Okay, this is the main body of the test.
The drugs and alcohol tests both come back clear, and the woman is allowed to continue. A short time later, another driver with no licence and no insurance is reported. Information suggests he may have been drinking too.
So you've blown 32, you're under,
yeah.
just.
Right, okay.
Obviously another couple of units and you'd be getting yourself locked up. All right.
Yeah.
The driver admits taking cocaine the previous night, but the drugs wipe is clear. However, the vehicle is seized and the motorist will have to find another way home.
Well, during last year's Christmas campaign, North Yorkshire Police stopped over 1,000 motorists during a 32-day campaign. Of that, around 10% were arrested for drink or drug driving, a figure, they say, is still far too high.
It's a horrifying percentage. If you think of 1 in 10 cars, that driver may be impaired through either drink or drugs. So we're certainly not taking our eye off the ball. We're putting extra resources and effort into this year's campaign, determined to do even more stops, more shows of force across the county to bring more of these people to justice.
Police say in places where there's little in the way of public transport, more drivers are likely to take a risk.
The reason I've stopped you is the car stinks of cannabis. Absolute stinks of it.
This vehicle from out of the county is stopped in a rural Dales village.
Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going.
The driver is tested for drugs and alcohol, and the vehicle is impounded for defective tyres.
10-4, it's the registered keeper driving it. Do you have a date of birth if you could PNC and hash the
For those on the front line, dealing with the consequences of drug or drink driving is one of the toughest aspects of roads policing.
It's that ripple effect. It's not just the person that's been killed by a drink driver, it's the family, it's their colleagues, and obviously the ramifications are enormous, whether families can afford to pay the bills, stay in family homes, and so on. So it's an absolutely devastating thing to have to do to deliver that death message.
Lives can be shattered emotionally as well as physically through the actions of drivers. Thankfully, the occupants of this vehicle were not seriously hurt.
I should just point out that those last images you saw weren't related to drugs or drink driving, but it just shows you what can happen with a momentary lapse of concentration. Let's talk to Elliot Poskett, Assistant Chief Constable here at North Yorkshire Police. Elliot, do these campaigns really work?
Yeah, they undoubtedly do. I mean, we do drink drive campaigns all through the year, but Christmas time, in particular when people are more prevalent to be socialising and going out, we do find, as you've seen, I think, from your report, over 1,000 people tested last year. Almost 10% of those people were arrested. So they do work. And again, I will have no hesitation, neither will my officers, in ruining their Christmas so that yours and your viewers are safe.
Is a rural county like North Yorkshire a particular problem when there's a lack of public transport and if people think, look, it's a cold night, I'm going to take a chance?
Yeah, well, you know what, we've got very lovely roads, very lovely scenery. I would just say, if you're going to take a chance, imagine the speeds on some of those rural roads that people travel at. And especially when you're impaired through drink or drugs, you just can't make the right sort of reaction time that you would normally make. Just don't do it. Don't gamble. Don't drink at all if you're going to get behind the wheel of a car.
And how big a problem is drug use and drug driving these days?
You know what? Well, we're at a point now where we've got far better technology. We have drug wipes. We can test for drugs in the way we never did before. And you'll have probably seen, you know, we do that very frequently. So we are seeing a rise in it. But obviously, we've got more officers out there and more ways of finding them.
OK, Elliot, thank you for talking to us. So you've been warned, if you do persist in drink or drug driving, you're likely to be caught. And the campaign is underway. Don't shatter a life. Amy.
Phil, thank you. Next night, a 13-year-old boy who ran over and killed his foster carer in Sheffield has been sentenced to 2 years in youth custody. The boy, who can't be named because of his age, pleaded guilty to causing death by dangerous driving. The court heard that 60-year-old Marcia Grant was hit by her own car after the boy in her care tried to steal it and reversed over her. Marcia was a foster carer for Rotherham Council, who today announced an independent review. Our social affairs correspondent Emma Glasby was in court.
A grandmother and a dedicated foster carer, Marcia Grant's family says she cared for vulnerable and troubled children and wanted to pull the world into a hug. But Marcia was killed outside her home in Sheffield when a 12-year-old boy she was fostering ran over her in her own car. The boy, who's now 13, pleaded guilty to causing death by dangerous driving and possessing a knife. He told police he was taking the car to go and see his mother. Marcia ran to the back of the car to try and stop it before it reversed over her at speed, causing catastrophic injuries. Marcia Grant's son and daughter held hands in the courtroom as the judge told the boy he was being sentenced to 2 years in youth custody. Gemma Grant had stood up in court and described her mother as the family's rock. She said that she had experienced panic attacks and flashbacks since her mother's death. Gemma wiped away tears as she said the one person who could have guided us through this trauma isn't here. Sean Grant said in his statement that their lives had been shattered by his mother's death. He said, "We are trying to pick up the pieces that quite simply feel too heavy to lift."
Marcia was a wife, mother, grandmother, friend and a pillar of her community. Her death has had a profound effect on everybody who loved her. Although the criminal justice process has concluded today, I am aware that this brings no resolution or closure for Marcia's friends and family. They will continue to grieve their tremendous loss and will do so for the rest of their lives.
At an earlier hearing, the boy had denied a charge of murder, and today Marcia's family criticised the decision to accept a plea of causing death by dangerous driving. In a statement, the family said, "We feel completely let down by the Crown Prosecution Service and their lack of willingness to allow our mum's story to be heard and brought to meaningful justice. We also believe that decisions made by Rotherham Metropolitan Borough Council played a critical role in the circumstances which led to our mum's death." This evening, the CPS said it had concluded there was no longer a realistic prospect of conviction for the murder charge. Rotherham Council said Marcia gave love and care to children who needed it the most and confirmed an independent review will now be carried out. Emma Glasby, BBC Look North.
You're watching Wednesday's Look North, still to come on tonight's programme. The drawing is on the wall. Leeds gets papered for the City of Culture. Next tonight, the news of the death of Sheffield United player Maddie Cusack brought the footballing world to a standstill. She was just 27 when she was found dead in her home. Now her family have spoken for the first time about their plans to set up a foundation in her name. Graham Satchell reports.
Just a few weeks ago, the football world stopped in silence to remember Maddie Cusack. Maddie had been found dead at home by her dad. Police have said there were no suspicious circumstances.
Life without Madeleine is it's unimaginable, unbearable. Yeah, it's just unimaginable.
Maddie's family remembering a much-loved sister and daughter. They say she was a happy-go-lucky, carefree girl with no long-standing mental health issues and everything to live for.
She became Miss Sheffield United. They labelled her Miss Sheffield United. She fell in love with the city. She fell in love with the fans. She fell in love with the whole place and she found her home there. Yes, she did, yes.
Maddie's family have been struggling to understand her death. They say until Christmas last year she was at her happiest, but everything changed from February. At their request, they say Sheffield United have agreed to carry out a thorough investigation into the events they believe contributed to her passing.
She worried about her career in football because football to her was everything. Okay, so to have that threatened in any way, shape or form hurt. So yeah, her spirit was broken. That's the best way that I can describe it to you.
Maddie's family say she was facing a number of pressures. Some were financial. As well as playing for the club, Maddie also worked in the office as a marketing executive. She had to do 2 jobs to make ends meet.
Sheffield United. Last year their players were part-time, which means that they all had full-time jobs and trained 3 times a week, played on a Sunday, often travelled on a Saturday to play on a Sunday, for a minimal amount of money. I think Madeline was on £6,000 a year last year to play football. So these girls are having to juggle 2 jobs. They're having to train and behave like male athletes for a minuscule of the amount of money they get. It's too much. The pressures are way too much.
Sheffield United say they can neither confirm or deny that an investigation is happening, but they told us they're in regular communication with the Cusack family and have offered full support following the tragic passing of Maddie. Maddie's family are now waiting for the outcome of an inquest into her death. They have set up a foundation in her name. They're hoping to give football boots to young girls who want to play the game.
Graham Satchell reporting there, and our thoughts are with Maddie's family, who are so brave to speak out there. Now, all through this week, we have been looking at council funding. And tonight, it's the turn of adult social care. In Bradford, one of the biggest care home providers says it relies on some people paying top-up fees as local authority rates on their own don't cover the costs. Bradford Council says it's currently considering the funding levels for next year, but was able to provide an above-inflation uplift last year. Our health correspondent Jamie Coulson has this.
Good afternoon, everyone.
At Brookfield Residential Care Home in Shipley, they look after 38 residents. 10 receive some local authority funding and most of them pay extra top-up fees. Conrad Chaika is the owner and the chair of the Bradford Care Association. He says this is common among providers as council funding on its own doesn't meet the basic weekly cost.
The true cost of care is £200 or £300 higher than what the local authority are prepared to pay. The local authority can't pay more at the moment because their funding is under constant pressure. So what happens is that top-ups come from families.
Bradford Council says it provided an above-inflation uplift last year following on from a cost of care exercise, and it offers a range of homes at local authority rates.
Come on, Philip.
For some, meeting the eligibility for local authority funding can also prove difficult. Philip and Pauline Robinson are both in their 80s and both have dementia. They currently pay their own care home fees, but their money will soon run out. They've been told they don't meet the criteria for funding at the care home and have instead been offered sheltered housing. Their case is currently with the Ombudsman.
Where do we go from here? This is my home.
There's less and less people getting residential care that's funded by councils. And Philip and Pauline are in a situation where this is really stressful.
Bradford Council says it can't comment on individual cases, but those referred to adult social care receive full assessments of their needs, which are fully explained. Jamie Coulson, BBC Look North.
Well, we're looking at council funding all week on Look North, and we want to hear from you. Have you noticed the cuts in your area? How's it affected you, whether it's in education, social care, it might be fly tipping or even potholes? We want to hear your stories. You can email us look.north@bbc.co.uk. Now, the parents of Gracie Spinks, a Derbyshire woman who was killed by her ex-colleague, want to change the law to help victims of stalking. 23-year-old Gracie was murdered in June 2021 in Duckmanton by Michael Sellers. During the inquest into her death, the coroner raised concerns about record keeping at Derbyshire Police and a lack of police investigation when a bag of weapons belonging to Sellers was found. Gracie's parents say more needs to be done to solve the postcode lottery for stalking victims.
So if somebody stalks a stalking report, say in London, it should be the same in Leeds, Aberdeen, Plymouth, wherever. And I don't know why they can't all do the same and have the same procedures in place to deal with stalking, so that the police officers are duly trained and know how to cope and what to do and set procedures. But the training is most important.
We have now got certain answers, you know, to everything, and obviously, yeah, we've got to just take that forward now.
Let's move on to sport now. Mark is at Hillsborough for us. Hope you wrapped up warm there, Mark. It's a chilly one.
It's absolutely Baltic here tonight, Amy. Sheffield Wednesday have a chilling task ahead of them tonight because they are bottom of the Championship and they are up against the top of the league, Leicester City. It doesn't get tougher than that. Sheffield Wednesday are 10 points from safety, so in desperate need of points. Elsewhere tonight, Huddersfield Town and Leeds United are also in action. But let me bring you up to speed with last night, because 5 of our clubs were playing last night, and you'll never see a more bizarre winner than at Oakwell. And just take a look at this, because in added on time at the end of the match, Wycombe goalkeeper Max Striuk attempted to waste time by delaying picking up the ball. Barnsley's Sam Cosgrove bumped into him, the keeper spilled it, and Cosgrove capitalised. Now Bradford City made it back-to-back League Two wins under new boss Graham Alexander with a 3-0 away win at Forest Green Rovers. Matt Platt put the Bantams ahead, and then Andy Cook scored a penalty, and 3 minutes from time, Jamie Walker sealed victory. Doncaster Rovers returned to winning ways with a 3-1 victory over Colchester United, thanks in part to an own goal. A header from Mo Farl put Rovers back ahead, and victory was sealed from the spot by Joe Ironside. That's Rovers' 7th win in their last 9 home matches. And Harrogate Town fought back to claim a point at home to Wrexham after going 2 goals down to the Hollywood-owned club. Dean Cornelius got a goal back just before half-time. Then at the start of the second half, a Warren Burrell header equalised for Harrogate. Elsewhere, Rotherham lost 4-1 away at Hull. Now, there's an incredibly powerful conversation in this week's episode of the Rob Burrow BBC podcast called 7. He has interviewed the double Olympic champion Dame Kelly Holmes, and she's opened up to Rob about how she had suicidal thoughts and used to self-harm while she was at the peak of her sporting career. The conversation happened after Rob spoke about his own battles with motor neurone disease, asking Kelly how she'd overcome adversity in her own life. Have a listen to part of the podcast now.
basically, yeah, I didn't want to kind of see the next day. I became a self-harmer at that same time. Yet I'm at the top of my game as an international athlete. And back then, nobody ever talked about mental health awareness. I didn't even know what it was I was going through.
Well, if you've been affected by anything mentioned in that clip, there's help and support from BBC Action Line. Go to bbc.co.uk/Action Line. The podcast is called 7 Rob Burrow. It's been produced by BBC Radio Leeds and it's available to download on the Total Sport podcast on BBC Sounds or wherever you download your podcasts from. There's even a QR code if you want to scan that on your phone right now. Well, Amy, kick-off here is less than an hour away at Hillsborough. Sheffield Wednesday taking on Leicester City. They're going to have to put in a massive performance just to get a point tonight. So we wish them well, and we wish Leeds United and Huddersfield Town the best of luck too. Back to you.
We certainly do. Get home safe, Mark. Thank you. Next tonight, we're checking in with the Leeds City of Culture programme. 4 large-scale murals have been installed on buildings by an illustrator. Mo is a former Paralympian sprinter from Iran, and even after retirement, his feet is doing all the work. Abiola has this.
Taking art to new heights, this paper mural is the first of 4 to be created around Leeds by Iranian-born illustrator Mo Barangi as part of the city's Year of Culture, Leeds 2023. Mo keeps a watchful eye as his work is installed on Mabgate.
Honestly, I'm so happy about that because my first time I seen my big work. Yeah, I'm never working before in that one, but I'm so happy as well working in the city, in the Leeds.
Mo was born without full mobility of his left arm, so often uses his feet to create his work. It's traditional Iranian calligraphy and imagery, exploring issues of migration, travel and freedom. But he's now also taking inspiration from his new home here in Leeds.
I love it here because it's very same in my city in Iran, because I'm from in the north of Iran, Rasht. I love it here because it's have too many rain and rainy city, but have too many kind person. I'm every day walking in Leeds. I think it's my city.
Art is now Mo's life. It's taken him all over the world, but he first made his mark in athletics as a Paralympic sprinter for Iran. East Street Arts commissioned Mo's latest work.
So we wanted to do a series with Mo because a lot of his work is about migration and journeys, and we thought it'd be nice to sort of map some of his work through a journey itself. So his work, some of the pieces start up near where Mo lives in West Park, and then there's a sort of journey through town with some poster drum pieces and into Mabgate where his studio is.
This paper mural is only temporary and should last 6 months, but it's hoped the impact will last far longer. Abby Jaola, BBC Look North, Leeds.
Well, certainly very striking, isn't it? Right, stop what you're doing and panic. Christmas is creeping up really quickly, but there is a family in Rotherham who are super organised. They start planning very early. The lights are already up. Heidi is live in Maltby at the lights. It must cost a fortune to light that, Heidi. Look at that.
I'll tell you about that later, the cost of it all. But it's snowing here, Amy. It actually is cold enough to snow. But welcome to the Christmas house, also known as the Lighthouse. And if you know Maltby, you'll know exactly where I am, because this is the 4th year in a row that this family has taken it upon themselves to create this absolutely crazy display. Let me bring in Darren, who has the Grinch with him, bizarrely. Darren, you're behind all this. Where on earth do you start with something like this?
Start the roof this year, start Halloween, put everything up. It's a full-time job now enough to do it all.
So you wanted to start the roof because it was dark last year. You put your dad up there, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm a neighbour.
And why do you do it, Darren? Walk with me. You do it because you love all the reactions of the families that come?
Yeah, everyone likes it and always puts a smile on the face.
You can't stop yourself, can you? You just add to it every single year. Well done, Darren. It looks spectacular. Well, there was a big light switch on Sunday night. They got 500 people crowding out the street, and there's lots of donations coming in. And this is Natalie, who lives here, Darren's partner.
Hello.
Natalie, this is a lot of fun, but there is a serious reason why you do this.
Yeah, I lost my best friend, Melanie. She was in Rotherham Hospice. She was only 39, 3 small children, so charity close to my heart, and everybody else's, to be fair, in the village. So yeah.
Well, it looks fantastic, Natalie. Thanks ever so much for talking to us tonight. And just in case you're wondering about the electricity bill, it costs £10 a night to light all this up. Over 35 nights, that's £350 for the entire season. Paula, you're from Rotherham Hospice,
yep.
And they raised over £6,000 last year. What does that mean to you?
That means we can provide petrol for one of our cars for one of our hospice at home team, which is phenomenal. It's a great deal of money for us. Thank you.
Paula, thanks ever so much. Well, the lights go on every afternoon at 4:30. Everybody's welcome, and of course, donations are especially welcome.
Oh, it does look lovely. It's got me right in the festive mood. Even Paul's there, Grinch.
Yes, we've not heard that one before, have we, Amy?
Fake snow there, but we got the real deal, haven't we?
Well, we did a very tiny portion of our region, but I've got some footage from the eastern end of the North York Moors, if you care to view these pictures, because there were a few problems, actually. That road between Pickering and Whitby was closed temporarily before the ploughs and the gritters went through, but there's been a few centimetres up there. That's sort of Goathland over towards Whitby, and there's been some sleety snow along the coast as well. Now, if you've got any pictures, send them to me on X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, and on the Weather Watcher website. So it is going to be obviously cold over the next few days. Tomorrow's headline, sunshine and scattered wintry showers. But interestingly, we've got a bit of a veer in the wind from northwest to a northeasterly. Now that's really important because it's going to bring showers in from the North Sea. I've got these, I've painted these blues on again to show you the extent of the cold. This weather front might bring wintry showers in from the west later in the weekend. The milder Atlantic area, it does look as though it's going to break through probably from the middle of next week, and then we turn milder, but obviously that's a long way away. Now then, the showers in the North Sea, they're beginning to pull inland. The wind's going round to the northeast, so these showers of rain along the coast will push inland tonight, so some of us will see a slight covering of snow. You can see the showers across North and then West Yorkshire, a few flurries for South Yorkshire overnight. Watch out for widespread ice. The gritters will be out in force later on. Temperatures will be sub-zero. So tomorrow's high water times, Filey 5:47, Bridlington at 5:56. So a frosty, icy start with a few wintry showers around. They'll continue to run in, particularly across northeastern areas, but the further inland you go, the more likely you are to stay dry with spells of sunshine. Obviously, it's going to feel cold once more, with top afternoon temperatures coming in at 3 in Bradford and Huddersfield, 4 in Leeds and in Sheffield. So for Friday and the weekend, plenty of bright winter sunshine. There will be a few wintry showers, but most of us dry Friday. That risk of showers coming in from the west at late Saturday into Sunday and Monday. And then we have to wait until the middle of next week before eventually the Atlantic winds through and temperatures recover somewhat. Amy, that is the forecast.
Christmas must have come early because you've got a new pair of shoes on.
Well, I painted the old ones actually. Waste not, want not, Amy.
Oh, so you might need some new trousers as well. You're not feeling a draft at the side there. That's it from us. Bye-bye.